Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, kids, wherever and whenever this may be. This is a quick little supplemental bonus video I wanted to add on how to find the vertex of any graph, in this case absolute value graphs, with your TI calculator. So I'm going to show you 3 examples. This will be somewhat short on just how to find the vertex exactly, because sometimes the numbers you get are somewhat complicated and you can't find it in your head or doing it by hand quickly. Like this one, for example. This vertex of this graph, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be one that involves decimals and or fractions. So here's how you find it. Well, first off, you want to graph this function in your calculator to see what it looks like. So when you graph it, you want to type in something like this. So you can see that -3 times the absolute value of 5x plus 4 plus 7 is right here. That ABS, that stands for absolute value. So you don't actually get the bars on your screen, but this is what that means. When you see this, that basically means you're going to have those 2 bars right there. If you're one of the few that have a TI-84 that you got on your own, those actually show the bars. The old ones, the A3s, the A2s, those don't really do that. Anyways, you might be asking me, how do you get those bars? Well, here's how you do it. You'll see over here that you press the math button, so you get to this screen, arrow over 1 to the right, and you're going to see ABS. So either hit the number 1 or press enter down here, you'll get this right there. So first you type in -3, then ABS, it gives you a parenthesis, type in 5x plus 4, then close parenthesis, then plus 7, you'll get all this. You go to graph it, and it looks like this. Notice that we have a -3, which means the graph should go down, and you see here that it does indeed go down. So this equation that we typed in the y equals screen gave us this graph right here. So how do I find the exact vertex? Here's what I do. Press the second button, trace, so it's basically second calculate, and then you'll get this screen right here. Whoops, not that one, forget that one. It is not the 5th option, it is actually the 4th option, which is right here, maximum. Why maximum? Well, look at your vertex. Your vertex is right there. This is the highest point on this graph. It's the maximum. If I had a graph like this that was right side up, well then this would be the minimum. So what you pick depends on what kind of graph you have. This one has a maximum, so I picked this. I either press number 4 or press enter when I highlight 4 with the arrows. Once you do that, you get a screen that looks like this. You're going to see a cursor somewhere on your screen, and it's going to ask you the question, left bound? Question mark. What you're going to do is just move your cursor over until you're left of the vertex. So the vertex is right here. Get your cursor somewhere to the left. You see right here I got to the left, then press enter. So you've picked a point left to that vertex. Then it will say right bound. So you do the same thing just on the right side. So I would basically arrow my cursor over to the right until I got somewhere right of the vertex. Doesn't matter if you're like one spot over or like way down here, just somewhere to the right, press enter, then it's going to ask you to guess. When it asks you to guess, just pick a point that's as close to the actual vertex as you can get. Sometimes your cursor won't let you get exactly on top, but get as close as you can, and then press enter. When you do that, it will tell you the vertex of this graph. They'll call it the maximum, but you'll know it's the vertex. And in this case, it should look something like this. I'm going to put it over here. So what it says is that your maximum is -8.04. That's for your x, and your y is 6.9999939. Okay, your calculator doesn't find the exact point of the vertex. It approximates it as best it can. If you see -0.8000004, that's basically -0.8 or -4/5. That's your x value. Your y is 6.99999. you can basically call that 7. Which means then that, I'm going to erase this here, that your vertex is at the point negative 0.8, comma 7. So that's your vertex right there. So I just found it with my calculator, not doing any actual handwork myself, just knowing the steps to let this machine do this work for me. So let's say you're asked to graph the whole entire graph. Well, now you know where to plot the vertex. But how do you know what other points to graph? Well, you could obviously take this equation, make an xy table, just plug in 0 for x and 1 for x and -1 and -2 and things like that for x and get back numbers for y. Or if you press second graph, you're going to get a table on this machine that will look something like this. So again, you press second graph and you get a table, and look at this. This is the table for this function or equation right here. And I can arrow up and down to see, like, less values of x, like I want -4, -5, keep pressing up. If I want +4, +5, or +10 down here, just keep pressing down and I'll get there. I can see for each value of x what y would become. And this is pretty nice. Because again, if you do your steps right, it takes a lot of the mental work away from you. So that's the first example. Let's go to the next one. So we have y equals 4/5 times the absolute value of 3x minus 5. So again, type this in your calculator, and when you do that, it looks something like this. So for 4/5, just put that in parentheses separately. So this means 4 divided by 5. After all, fraction is division. So if you just type in 4/5 without parentheses, it's going to be 4 divided by 5 times all that. That's just a mess up with order of operations. So make sure you put this fraction, when you graph it on a calculator, put that fraction in parentheses. Anyways, again, absolute value, it's the math, arrow to number. The first option was ABS. So type in 3x minus 5, make sure it's a minus sign, not a negative sign, they are different. And then close parentheses. So when you do this again, your machine treats this as absolute value. It's like straight bars. When you graph it, it looks something like this. So again, just press the graph button and you will get something like this graph right here. So this graph is this equation, or this equation right here. So again, I can kind of tell that, like, there's 1, there's 2 for x, and there's something like that. So I can't tell the exact point that vertex is on, so I can calculate it myself again. So again, it's second, calculate, and then this time it's going to be the minimum, because this is the lowest point of the graph. So second, calculate minimum, follow the same steps as before. So it's going to ask you for a left bound. So, move your cursor over to the left until you're somewhere over here, press enter. Then when it asks for right bound, move your cursor over somewhere over here to the right of the vertex, press enter. Then it's going to say guess, and put your cursor somewhere close down here, as close as you can, press enter, and then you'll get your answer, which will look like this here picture. So it says your minimum for x is 1.666667, and your y minimum is 8.2184 e -7. E -7. What does that mean? What this e means is basically times 10, like scientific notation. So if you're in chemistry or physics, you've probably seen this a lot this semester. So this means times 10 to the power of -7. So that means this is actually 0.000008, right? 6, because I would move this decimal back 7 spaces, so I'd have 6 more zeros between the decimal point and that 8. So this is actually going to be 0. Pretty much any time you see an E in your answer, again, your calculator just approximates the vertex. It doesn't get it exactly right, but it gets it like microscopically close. So it's basically, you see an E, that means 0. So your y value is 0. After all, there is no plus or minus anything outside the absolute value, so from your knowledge of translations, it hasn't gone up or down anything. Your x, though, is 1.66667. That's 1 2/3. So I'm going to call that 5/3. So your vertex right here is the point 5/3, comma 0. So this is your vertex. And then again, if you want to see a table of values, just hit second and then table. You might be asking me, Mr. Randa, I hit table and I don't have the values you have. I don't have like x being -3 of 3. I have x being like 10,000, or I have x being like -4.000001. How do I fix that? Here's what you do. You're going to hit second window, so second table set, and this screen pops up right here. So you hit second table set, you get something like this. Table start, that means what you think it means, where your table starts. So if your table starts at like 10,000 or some weird number, change this to maybe -3 or 0 or something like that. Because you can always, if you start at 0, you can always just arrow up on your table to like -1, -2, -3, etc. This triangle, so triangle table, this actually means delta. It's a Greek letter. The Greek symbol for delta, you see that? That means change. So that means, how does each number change? So in my screen, I set it to 1. You do the same. Set yours to 1. That means that your table will go, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. like that. So it keeps increasing by 1. That's what this means. How does it change for each value of x? So if you made that triangle or delta table equal to 0.5, then it would go -3, -2.5, -2, -1.5. It would increase by 1/2. So making it 1 for the sake of this unit is just fine. It makes it pretty simple. You can find points in the graph, stuff like that. So do that, and then get your table. So then you can use your table, and you can figure out other points to plot. So of course you plot the vertex and label the vertex. If you're on a take-home test right now, make sure you do that for every single question you have to graph. That's absolute value related. And then you can use your table, so second graph or table, to figure out other points you can plot exactly. Let's go to the third and final example. So we have y equals 2 times the absolute value of -2x minus 3 plus 4. So just to be clear, this is a minus sign. Right there, that's a negative sign. When you type this in on your y equals screen, it looks something like this picture. Did I say something like? I meant to say exactly like this picture. No, it doesn't. That's a lie. I just picked the wrong graph. This is number 2's graph. Let me get number 3's and pause. One side note with this Educreations app is that I cannot go back on stuff I record unless I want to restart the whole entire video. So 13 minutes in, I'm not going to restart it. So it's kind of like doing it live. I screwed up, I fix it and keep going. So now I have it here. So 2 times the absolute value of 2x minus 3. Again, the ABS parentheses -2x minus 3. So that basically treats it like this when it graphs it. And then plus 4 at the end. Press the graph button and you get this picture. And so again, to find the vertex, this one here would be a minimum because it's the lowest point on the graph, right? Again, when it goes upside down, that's a max. So I'm going to hit second calculate, so second calculate, and then pick the minimum option. And then left bound, pick a point over here, somewhere to the left of the minimum, hit enter. Right bound, pick a point over here, hit enter. Then for guess, put as close as you can to the vertex, hit enter, and then you're going to get your vertex. And voila, this right over here is the vertex found for you. This -1.4999998. Again, you round that really is -1.5. That's your x value. And your y value, 4.0000006. Did I say enough zeros? I'm not really sure. that's just 4. I mean, after all, again, with translations, you see it here, the plus 4 at the end. That, remember, means up 4. So I have that here with my vertex. So that's your vertex. That gets graphed and labeled on your grid. And then you just find your table. So again, second table, and your table should look something, or should I say exactly, like this. Right here in the middle of the screen. So you see different values of x and y and what you get back, all that kind of good stuff here. So then you can just start plotting these points. So plot 0, 10, plot negative 1, 6, plot negative 2, 6, plot negative 3, 10, all this kind of stuff. And you're going to have your vertex labeled already, and then both sides of your V, and your graph is done neatly and perfectly. Hopefully a straight edge is there, and then it looks great. You get 100%. Your test goes pretty well. You're happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. We move on. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions about how to use your calculator, or you encounter some other errors or things aren't working, you get error or something like that, hit me up on Moto, or come find me before class or right when class starts, and I'll try and help you out with that. But anyways, you should have a take-home test to finish and hopefully get as far as you can before you come back to class. So good luck, and I'll see you in class.